Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, we refresh some of our guidance on flashpoints in the context of DvL. But first, some game and AIE Guild news. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 161. Hey, EPC, I'm reading this really great book about force levitation. I just can't put it down.
Oh my
I
god.
can't put it down. With me, as always, is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Well, it's actually going pretty well, even though I just got off of a stretch of doing two GSF matches tonight, which I'm glad to say I did emerge with my sanity intact, such as it is. Uh, Thank you to my teammates
Sanity
for that.
is a prison. Let madness release you.
Yeah.
I'll remember that, Raptus. That's good advice, words to live by. But Dent and Born to Eat Bacon and ShadowCon were very they were very fun to play with, and even though I was just out on the edge spinning around going, "Where are you guys?" At least I got two matches done, so now I'm up to three. Got two more to go. I'm starting to kind of freak out too about the stuff that's left to do. I mean, I still have to do Eternal Championship. I still have to do. I've done one crew skill, but I still have to do the rest. I need to finish up to chapter 16, which I'm on chapter 10 right now with my Marauder. I still need to level up some characters. I keep thinking, oh, all that stuff will be fine. I'll just do it, as I get to it. But I'm starting to get to that point now.
Yep.
We did get some hard mode flashpoints done so far. We actually have done five, so we're making progress in that. I did get my Merc to 65, and she's wearing my mains. She's borrowing my mains gear, and then I bought some stuff and made some stuff, and she's fully augmented out, so she's ready for whatever hard modes we want to do. And we did a hard one. We did Manon, and got through that. But then we decided to go back and start sort of from the beginning and take them in order. So we've been having fun with those actually.
Yeah.
I haven't done Flashpoint in a long time. So yeah, and I did roll up an operative who's like still on Hutta. She isn't level 10 yet, but my super secret plan for the operative is that she's going to be my one where I do the PvP part of the DvL, and she's going to go in at level 10 or however she gets once she gets her advanced class, however whatever level she is, and just kind of be terrible in PvP for however many matches it takes, and then you know no one will know it was me because it doesn't have Seema in the name, and they won't go, "Oh, that's Seema. She's terrible at PvP."
Yeah, if you're an operative at all and you're contributing in healing, it's appreciated. So I wouldn't worry about it. That's gonna be awesome. And it'll go relatively quickly. You only no, you do. You need to do 15. I thought you only needed to do 5. You only need to do 5 GSF, but you need to do 15 of the
Maybe it'll be fun.
PvPs. But as you level each of those other characters to 50, you're going to be doing at least one on each of those because you get so many levels just by doing the intro to war zones. So everyone should be doing that. If you did that sort of around level 10, level 11, you'll be getting 5 or 6 levels just from doing intro to war zones because they did not scale back the amount of experience you get from that intro quest. So it's level 55, level 65 amount of experience that you're getting. So you're getting that big huge chunk of levels. So everyone should be doing that. So that's 6 right off the top. And then you just need to do another 9 and you're set. Bob's your uncle.
Bob is my uncle. How'd you know?
I leveled up my assassin all the way to 65 and I made some relics, implants, and an earpiece, all the 212 stuff for that, and that worked pretty
Yep.
well. I didn't calculate until afterwards that that's actually relatively expensive.
Yeah.
I have tons of the exotic isotope stabilizers because I kept, we greed on them all the time. I just plop them in the bank, and I've never sold them. So I've just been,
Right.
blowing through those. I didn't realize it was taking 10 to make some of these things. Like the earpiece, it takes 10 to make it, and there's like
I didn't realize
70K
that either.
or 80K each. So that's an 800K earpiece that I made for myself.
Nice.
like what the hell?
I wonder how much they cost on the GTN.
Yeah, no, you can.
It was.
That's how much they
I
go for on the GTN too. So
I did the same thing. I made earpiece and implants. It was making me sort of nostalgic for the days when you could buy those with comms.
right.
I like how it works. It's
Some of that
easy to find stuff,
you
but
can't buy relics for comms. I think you can buy implants and earpieces, which I guess I should be doing. I don't know why I blew all that money, but
really, I thought it was only mods and arm rings and barrels and stuff that you could buy now.
I guess we should go check. Double check. It's definitely not relics. That's the biggest pain. And I think that always has been. But I did get those. I augmented them up. I even made my own augment kits for all of them. I made all of the augments, and then I went to mostly my mercenary and then a couple other characters, and I got up to, I think I have all 220 gear in all of the other slots. I have a 224 wrist, 220 offhand, and only 208 main hand, because the main hand's the toughest thing to have a drop on. But and a set bonus, a three piece set bonus even at this point, all just off of extra tokens.
I really lucked out because since I'm going merc to merc, I have her main hand and her offhand.
On my mercenary, my DPS mercenary that we play with, yeah, I'm using the gear off my main. This just because we wanted the extra tank to be around, and I wasn't gonna level up a power tech because I already did the mercenary.
Yeah.
I did not have a geared assassin.
You're right. You're switching from tech to force, so you don't have hilts and stuff.
Hilts, and I could have used the tank gear off my power tech, but I figured I've got even another assassin that's 60, and then I'll probably level up a shadow as I'm doing to 50 for DvL. It's not bad to have another tank set and another tank on each side. We keep being short on tanks every time we do stuff.
Yeah. I agree.
And I had this awesome crystal, and I bought myself another Gree Saberstaff hilt, which just got this cool effect on the blade, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I put some levels on my commando for DvL too. I don't know why I did, but I did like 5 levels on that with S-less, which I'm gonna run S-less like 10 times on that character, because that's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of blown away when I was looking at it today about how much stuff there's left to do, because I've been thinking, oh, I should log into SWTOR and make some progress on DvL, but nobody's on right now. We won't really do flashpoints, so I'll go do something else, whatever. And then but I'm realizing, no, I can be doing chapters, I can be doing crew skills, I can be doing leveling, I can be doing 1,000 things. So yeah.
The last thing I'll mention is I went up to the VIP lounge because I hadn't been up there in a while, and I went to the collector's edition vendor, and I found this really cool customization for Kemval. It turns his skin green, and it puts this cool armor on him, and it makes him look like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, which I sort of like. So this is my...
A really mean...
very angry.
Yeah, angry. Teenage
Raphael, Donatello, and Kem, he's the angry one. He's like the angry dwarf. But with that, I think we can talk about some news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
We did see a blog post, a news article came up this week. So it's not in the community blog, even though it was called out as a blog post somewhere else where they posted it. But it's if you look in the news articles on the official site, the Season 7 PvP rewards are listed out. They showed some pictures, including this pretty cool view of the Acklay mount that is one of the rewards. It's mixed reviews on it, but I like it. Yeah.
I like it.
They like this gold blue is the theme color of this particular set of rewards. So there's a gold blue crystal for if you gold core blue edges on the crystal. If you get that, there's the gold blue Acklay mount, and then there's a bunch of titles, and I think that's about it. There's no weapons or armor pieces this round, and people are a little bit upset about that. They think
There's still time to get those rewards, though, they say. So, you know,
so.
you
Yeah,
can
if you
still.
want the gold blue themed stuff and this Ackley mount in particular, you could get in there and get some ranked done, and maybe get enough to get it. Remember, they've got that token system in there now too, that even if you don't reach the particular tier, if you're doing it enough and you get enough of those tokens, you could potentially have enough to get the Ackley mount, even if you don't reach that tier.
Also, during the week, Eric tried to respond to a request for more information by putting some posts into a thread, and it's kind of interesting reading. Kind of goes back and forth between him and the community. You can find that in the dev tracker. And by the way, when we say that, you can find it in the dev tracker. The way I do it is I just type right into the Google bar SWTOR dev tracker, and it always comes right up. And then it'll show you these like just part of a post, and you can click on a link in there, and it'll take you to the thread, and you can read the post. And it's pretty interesting reading. Basically, Eric points out all the stuff they have been communicating about, and members of the community try to point out what they feel is lacking, and there's some hate in there, but all in all, not bad reading.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's valid points on both sides. It's definitely a valid point that we always wish there was more communication coming from BioWare. I completely agree with that. I do wish they did more. Eric popping into a thread and at least addressing some of the points and making the point that they do talk about this stuff in a variety of forums, even though it might feel like a lot of this stuff has never been answered. He did point out, hey, some of this stuff has been answered. And he addressed some things that weren't specific to that thread, which derailed the conversation just a little bit too, but it was okay. If we could get one of those little conversations going, like a couple times a week, I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, and I think what maybe Eric is missing a little bit is what people also want is just the little interactions every day. It's not, well, I can't say anything because there's no news on Kotet. We're saying, well, how about if someone posts that I did all 5 of my GSF things today, Eric can post, well, that's cool. I've done 25 or whatever, just, it doesn't have to be just some sense that when you post, it isn't just totally ignored.
Right. Yeah. Just something. Be present.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a major reveal every time. That's not what people. Well, some people want. They want more data than you can give. But yeah.
Want that. But yeah.
But there's an in between. Like I had a friend who used to always say, "There's always a third choice. It's never all this way or all that way. There's always a third choice."
Yes. There's shades of gray. At least 50 of them, from what I hear.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Dark versus light. I don't know if this is updated from last week, but it's definitely updated from our notes from a couple weeks back. It's 52.91% light side, 47.09% dark side, and it looks like more and more that's impossible that it will not be this blue chiss. Now, you do have to get to champion level, remember, to get this companion. If you're at champion level, though, you'll get this cool blue chiss Jedi with the vented lightsaber that a lot of us are looking forward to. So that's that. In guild news, we had a guy who had some time this week to jump on he lives in Australia, right? Doozy Doo?
He lives many time zones away, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And I hope this is not insulting, but I don't know if it's Australia or New Zealand or.
Yeah. But other side of the planet, we ran some hard mode flashpoints with him. He was fun to hang out with, so I wanted to give him a shout out. He helped us out with a couple things. Smoke, one of our longtime guildies, and has run a couple other guilds on the server, got to legendary. I'm only calling him out specifically because I was on when he got it, when he finished it off. So he joins at least Death Row, who's also got legendary DvL.
Yep.
Are they the only 2 guys so far? I think there might be one or 2 others, but Smoke I know for sure got it this week, so that's awesome.
How far are you?
Just
I'm at
Mostly the same.
34%.
Oh, no, I'm at. Would you say you're only at 30?
34%, that's where I am.
Yeah, you are slacking. No, because well, you haven't finished all the tacticals either. That'll clear
I
up a
told you
whole
I'm
bunch.
freaking out.
I do have a couple other
So,
of the extra things that I just have let linger. Like I haven't bothered to do like go get the datacrons or kill 50 things with HK51, and I have 2 more starfighter matches to complete. But besides that, it's just the couple classes that I need to finish off to 50, which again I don't count that as very difficult, and I'm gonna crank through that commando next, and then I'll do a shadow and crank them out, and then just the hard mode flashpoints. So everything's been hinging on the hard mode flashpoints in my mind. That this is the most difficult thing that's gonna be to get through. So there's still like 16 of those that need to happen.
me too, and I'm like, I'll get all those done, but I won't have gotten champion done because I won't have done the tacticals. I just have to remember to go back and make sure I pick up stuff.
Death Row is from New Zealand as well. So we have DP Roberts is of course saying what's the difference. They will explain to you in detail there is a difference. That's like saying U.S. and Mexico. What's the difference? We're both North America.
Yes, it is. It is like saying U.S. and Mexico. What's the difference? That's why I'm saying if I don't recognize his accent as Australian versus New Zealand, I hope it's not a grave insult.
Yes, it could be.
But Death, we know you're from New Zealand because it's in your name.
And then if it was Scottish and you were calling him Australian, then you were made an enemy for life.
Well, but that's a good example. If someone's Scottish and you're calling them Irish,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
they might go, "What? I don't sound anything like an Irish person."
So if you two are from New Zealand or Australia or Scotland, how would and would like to join our guild, Seema will tell you how.
Yeah. So come join us on Jedi Covenant. Hop in a channel we made, which is called AIE LFO, and just say hi. If an officer's on, we will give you a guild invite. And there's generally an officer on in the evenings on the imp side. So if you want to do a pub character, you might need to come on the imp side and ask us to come over, which we're happy to do. If you want to know more about the guild in general, we are a large guild across many games. You can check out our website at aie-guild.org. You can also go there if you want to put in an application. There's a little join me button there, but the application is not required to join.
No, it is not. Come on, jump in. We would love to have you. And with that, we will talk about pugging. No, we will not talk about pugging flashpoints. We will talk about why you do not want to, because pugging flashpoints is a lesson in insanity.
Sanity is a prison. Let madness release you.
What we will talk about is a little bit of an update. Again, we did a cast in February of 2014, which you all probably remember, I'm sure. Exactly. So this will be a little bit of a repeat for everyone who just listened to our February 17th, 2014 podcast on flashpoints. But with all of us going through the DvL flashpoints, we wanted to touch on what we're doing for DvL, which ones you need to focus on, and a little bit of commentary on some of the tips, and a little bit of commentary on a BioWare interview that showed up on a blog site this week. That was an interview with Michael Backus that we'll talk about for 2 seconds as well. But to kick it off, there are 2 sets of flashpoints lists that you need to be completing to complete your Dark versus Light various levels. At the champion level, there's a list of all the tactical and story mode, or solo mode or tactical mode flashpoints that you need to complete. The hard mode flashpoints do not count for these. I'm 99% positive of that. I think
They don't. Yeah.
we confirmed that. Most of these, many of these have a solo mode that you can do. You can walk right up to the door and you can ask to do it solo mode, and then you'll get the extra droid companion that comes and basically does it for you, which is really nice. Of the
Yes.
of the ones that don't have that, some of those you also can do solo with a companion. Some of them you might need to bring an extra person. I think I did most of these myself. So this is Assault on Tython and Aethys, Battle of Ilum, Battle of Rishi, Blood Hunt, Boarding Party, Katamimu, the two Zerkas, Depths of Manan, Directive 7, Hammer Station, Korriban Incursion, KDY, Legacy of the Rakata, Maelstrom Prison, Mando Radar, Terrell 5, False Emperor, Foundry, and Red Reaper. A couple of those are Republic only, a couple of those are Imperial only. You do have to do them on both sides. No, you do, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, we figured out you do have to have a, right.
So False Emperor, no, Foundry, Terrell 5 and Foundry are Jedi Prisoner. I don't see in this list. Maelstrom Prison. No, I think in this list you only have to do one of them.
You're talking about Flashpoint Master? Is that what you're looking at? The hard modes?
Flashpoint Expert. In Flashpoint Master you
Expert
do have to do
Tactical.
both. I think in Flashpoint
Okay, so-
Expert you only have to do one of the mirrored ones. But I don't even see Black Talon or Essless in here, so it's not that.
I do have Maelstrom Prison and Terrell 5 checked off in Flashpoint Expert. And those are the pub ones, right? And then I have the Foundry.
No, Jedi Prisoner is... No, that's all part of the Jedi Prisoner. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think you're right. So Foundry, Terrell 5, Maelstrom Prison. It looks like something. Let's look at the legendary level. So you have to do all of the hard modes for the legendary level, which is called Flashpoint Master. And in this list, it's all of those. There is no hard mode of KDY, so that's not in the it's not in the list. But you do have here, in addition to the ones that we already mentioned, you do have Kaon Under Siege and Lost Island hard mode that need to be done. You don't have to do those in story mode. You do see here Black Talon and Essless listed, so you do have to do both of those. So Black Talon is Imperial, Essless is Republic. And then, yeah, so Terrell 5 and Foundry versus... so Terrell 5 and Maelstrom Prison and Essless are the Republic ones. Black Talon, Foundry, and Boarding Party? No. And one other has a mirror on the Imperial side. Anyways, you do have to do them all. Doing Kaon Under Siege and Lost Island hard mode is a little bit of a challenge. A lot of these hard mode ones are extra challenge. You're going to want to find a group. So that's a couple of things that we'll talk about shortly. Getting to champion level is something you're definitely going to want to do because, again, that's the level that's going to be required to get the companion. Does that come at champion or eternal? I think it comes at champion.
Which one?
To get the companion, the reward to get the companion. It's not legendary. Legendary is just to get the last set of everything. But in order to get that Chiss companion that we're all going to get, you are going to want to get to...
I'll look it up. It's the Eternal level.
Eternal. Okay. So you're going to need to do all those
the one
flashpoints plus get a second faction, both factions to 65. No problem. That's actually easier than doing all of the flashpoints. And then...
Right, you still have to do all the tactical, soul/tactical ones, but you don't have to do the hard mode ones.
Right. So let's talk about doing some of the hard modes. I finally got my tank ready to go. We wanted to make sure that we had geared characters because some of these are quite hard. If you start thinking about Blood Hunt, in particular Manan, Blood Hunt, a little bit on Tython and Korriban, and Kaon Under Siege and Lost Island. Those ones in particular, you do want a balanced group. You do want to make sure you have a tank that can tank, a healer that can heal, and DPS that can DPS. Those are serious business, and I would recommend getting a group of people together to do them. If you get a group of people together on the fleet that know their roles, and they don't, it doesn't have to be friends of yours, but I would recommend doing that way rather than just having people doing a random group queue. A lot of people have been trying that and not having all that great of luck. People get into the group queue and aren't necessarily prepared for what they're getting into, and getting dropped into one of those of the hardest of the hard modes can be quite frustrating. I know some people that went through it 4 or 5 times trying to just finish Blood Hunt and did not get through it until they got a guild group together. So that's the first tip that I would certainly recommend is get a group. Guild group is the best. If you need to do the group finder, make sure that your role is correct. You queuing as a healer or a tank is going to get you through the group finder a little more quickly. Make sure that you're geared and you know that role, though, if you're going to do it. The other thing that's frustrating is you'll find once in a while somebody will be really bad and queue as a tank and not actually be a tank, or not be geared or spec'd as a tank just because they're trying to get through the queue quicker. That's a recipe for failure. You won't even get through the first boss. The second thing is, for some of these, you do need to be a good tank for some of these extra hard ones, so keep that in mind. Let's see. What else for kicking off a group? What do you do if you are going to pug some of these more simple ones, Seema, which you love to pug groups?
Yeah, I'm big into pugging. Actually, I am going to be pugging probably some of the tacticals, but what I would do is I would log in at a time when I'm going to be able to play in an uninterrupted manner. I would ask on Guild Chat first if anybody wanted to come with me for some tacticals, and then however many people that were, whether or not it's a full group or not, then I would queue with those people, and we would be in voice. So at the very least, if it's not going well, at least we have each other to talk to.
Yes, maybe get some music going and have fun regardless. The other thing I like about putting a group together, even if it's going to be a group on the fleet, is if you go and you run one and the group is actually quite good and working out, if you've got some time blocked out, a lot of times people want to keep it rolling, and that's a great opportunity to knock a few out then, because you've got a good group.
Yep.
One of the things that I like, again, doing it with a guild group is because the pace of a group can certainly be different each time you get into a group. I find a lot of the pug groups get in, and it's people that have run it many, many times, and even me, I've run some of these many times, and a lot of times they go a little bit of even a little bit fast for what I like to do. They're running from boss to boss, and especially when I get in there and I try to heal or something, it gets a little bit frustrating because the healer needs time to regen their resources because they were just healing the heck out of the tank because the tank's barely bothering to use any cooldowns, just trying to go as fast as they can. You got to keep an eye on the rest of your group and go at a reasonable pace. You're going to get done quick enough as it is. The other thing that I wanted to call out was a lot of times there are shortcuts, right? There's mobs you can sap. There's boxes you can jump on to get around, and that's cool, and I like doing that. And of the groups that I used to run with, and again, we used to do a lot of these hard modes back in the day. We'd grind them for gear, and we, with really good people, we were doing hard mode operations. We were getting into some of the nightmares. But we didn't mind just clearing the trash and plowing on through. So I'm not up to speed on all of the shortcuts. So I'll get in there and, people be like, jumping over a railing, and I'll be like, oh crap, where the hell are they going? All right, apparently there's something I gotta do, and if you're in a group and not everybody knows the shortcuts, it can be problematic. And I tend to find, and this is not always the case, if you're on voice and everybody knows the shortcuts will definitely be faster. If you're in voice and somebody can explain the shortcuts, it'll be great. If you're not in voice and you're with a pug group, which I did get into one group, it was me and another guildie, and then it was 2 other people, and whoever was leading the group knew all these shortcuts, and the 4th guy didn't know any of them. Jumping over a railing, he fell off. Because he didn't jump to the exact spot. He wasn't mounted when he jumped, and it took us twice as long than if we had just killed the trash. The other thing is, if you have trouble on one of the bosses, like Tuno in Manon, and you zipped on through and you didn't kill the trash, well, then you're going to have to kill him. So if you just killed him the first time through, it wouldn't be a problem.
I have a similar argument about CC because people have sometimes the notion that it's quicker to just wait on in and don't stop and bother with CC, but in the end it can be far quicker to actually CC and kill things in order and then move on than it is to
Yeah, because you won't have blown all your cooldowns. Your healer won't have run out of all of their resources because you don't have like 2 extra elites pounding on everybody when you could have just CC'd them. This is a great opportunity to practice things like CC. We did, back in our old tips, we had we talked about things like marking targets, having a kill order, CCing, making sure that you're killing the weak ones and then the strong ones and then the elite bosses, because elites and bosses, because the tank will be able to hold aggro and soak the damage off the elite ones, and the weak ones you'll be able to kill really quickly and keep them from shooting the healer the whole time. Establish that kill order, make sure everybody's doing it, and make use of those extra abilities. Stuns, interrupts. These are things that people forget that they have, especially if you're not on a boss fight. You can be doing AoE stuns. Me as a tank, now I'm making sure I have my AoE stun on hotkey, and I'm using my AoE taunt and things like that. I'm using my shock. What do I have here? I have electrocute. I'm making sure I'm using electrocute to stun some of these extra elites, just to, again, keep the damage down and keep the healer from having to do extra healing, because it's getting an assassinate off, and with that will actually keep you moving more quickly.
And I know some people listening are thinking, well, if the DPS are doing their job, or if the tank is doing their job, or if the healer's doing their job, I shouldn't have to do this other stuff. But it's not about what you should and shouldn't have to do. Just don't even think about it that way. Just do what works.
Yeah. What do you have to tell us about healing, Seema?
Well, I usually, if I don't know the tank, I will wait a few seconds before I cast any heals so that I can see what's going on aggro-wise. And I'm also not afraid to line of sight if I get, or stun a mob if I get aggro from that mob. I'm also not going to really be too worried about 1 or 2 mobs, because usually that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So I guess the 3 points there are: don't heal right away, don't freak out, and if you have to line of sight, feel free to. Then the last thing I would say is heal the tank. I mean, it's nice if you can also heal the DPS, but you don't want the tank to go down.
Yep. I agree. I also so I guess tips for DPS. I keep an eye on the healer, and when there's those weak mobs, especially, or there's some other strong, and the tank's trying to manage. You're up there at a group of 9 mobs that are spread wide across the whole area. the tank can't control all of those mobs. They're gonna go after the healer. So the DPS should be keeping the killing the small ones first, keeping them off the healer, and keeping an eye on the healer and helping out, doing some stuns and that kind of thing. Then don't be pulling. Well, a couple things. Let the tank do their job and take the big thing. Don't think that you're a better tank than the tank and you're gonna pull aggro because you're cool, and you're gonna be like tanking some big thing when you shouldn't be. Keep it CC'd, let the tank the big things, you shoot the little things, and try not to pull aggro off the tank. When you're down at the lower levels, if you're doing any of these flashpoints to level up, like the tacticals and stuff, and down at the lower levels, the tanks do not have a lot of tanking abilities. They don't have, I don't think you get like the AoE taunt until later levels, like late 20s, I think is when you get your AoE taunts. So you've got one taunt that's got a cooldown, and you're in there in a group of 8 mobs. You're tanking 2 of the big ones. There's a whole bunch of little ones that the DPS could be going after, and some commando, me, decides they're gonna just hammer, unload all of their cooldowns on the biggest thing they can because it's the big thing and they're cool. That's just gonna slow the whole thing down. Again, the healer has to blow all of their resources and recharge extra long after the fact. All the other mobs are running all around. So, know your job, do what you're supposed to do. And then tanks, if you're a good tank, you'll do things like marking targets and maybe, put a flame put a flame or a target on the thing that you want the DPS to kill first. And ask for a CC and do those kinds of things. Other note I had for DPS, and this is something I always do on my commando in particular. I've got self heals, right? So I'll I'll throw a self heal at myself. I'm not going to make the healer again use all of their resources, so it slows us down. So we have to wait every fight. If I can drop a self heal on myself once in a while. I always bring stims. I'm always stimmed up. Bring med packs. Do what you need to do. Do the right thing. Make sure you're geared. Make sure you got augments, and I think you'll be good. What about?
Yeah, that's a good point, Granite Paladin. Just don't forget the tank, that if you have a DPS that's pulling off you, you have a guard that you can put on them.
Yes, guard. So use your tanking abilities if you are going to tank. You like here. I've got my dark ward. I'm by the end of me tanking a couple flashpoints, I was finally keeping dark ward up 100% of the time. Didn't do it right away, but that and putting guard on your person who's going to be either pulling aggro or put it on the healer because they're going to just pull trash aggro is a great idea. You are getting drops out of these flashpoints. If people are running around in, like 192 gear or like the 204 gear off of Eternal Championship, you will be getting some 208s. And once in a while, I think we're seeing a 216 drop from some of these hard mode flashpoints. Make sure everybody knows up front if you're planning on, needing and greeting and what you might need. Make sure that people are prepared and don't need on stuff that you don't actually need. Be respectful of that kind of thing. I think that goes without saying. You do get comms off of these things too. Make sure you're looting your comms off the bosses as you go along. I think that's going to be a good idea. And a lot of these also have there's the weekly for running tacticals and hard modes. There's quests for each of the individual. Not each of them, but often there's quests associated with a lot of the flashpoints. Be doing those too. You'll either get a little bit of rewards, or if you're not 65 yet, you'll get that extra experience, which you totally want. All right. You want to talk a little bit about the blog post, the interview with Michael Backus?
Yes. I wanted to start by saying that this blog post is from a blog called Going Commando.
Yeah.
which has actually been around for a long time. He's been blogging about SWTOR since 2011.
Yeah.
And what he did was he sent questions to, um, I think he sent them to Eric. He didn't really know who would answer them, and his questions are really good. I mean, he's really crafted his questions to get the most out of the answers. I really give him so much credit for that. But Michael Backus turned out to be the one who answered the questions. Um, and if you're wondering who Michael Backus is, he's the lead designer on Star Wars: The Old Republic. And the way he talks about it is that he manages the design team for SWTOR, and he works with his leadership and the leadership of I guess that's managerial types all through BioWare and EA to bring the vision of the game to life. So in other words, all the moving parts, kind of he is responsible for that. So he's a pretty good person to answer all these questions because he's on top of why they do what they do about flashpoints.
Yeah. I think it was
So
a nice walkthrough of design tips or the design approach, why some of the things that they did they liked, but sort of haven't turned out exactly the way they would have wanted, why developing more of these and developing these often are a little bit hard. A couple things I saw in there is Colicoid we realized does not have a hard mode and does not show up on these lists. They're sort of not focusing that too much on Colicoid. We don't expect to I wouldn't even be surprised if they just took it out. Colicoid is really cool and they like it. It's just sort of too far outside of the ordinary in the way you have to sort of use the turrets, and it's sort of a different kind of puzzle, and doing it in groups that aren't experienced with it, it really messes people up. So that was an interesting thing to have a little bit of commentary on. The other thing that there was a little bit of commentary on was KN Under Siege and Lost Island. I know there is a lot of people are fond of KN Under Siege and Lost Island, especially when they first came out. They were really, really hard. However, as Michael Backus mentions, that caused a little bit of a challenge in that a lot of people weren't able to get through those, and it's that idea of the very difficult content being dumped right into the middle of the game again causes a point of frustration for people. So they know that there's different levels of difficulty that people are looking for, and I hope they expand on that. I wouldn't mind if they continued to have really hard content. In fact, I sort of think that they should, but they're, I know they're afraid of having things that just aren't accessible and are frustrating to people. I know there's always a group of in the community that's going to want harder, something harder than what is currently in there. And if I was the designer, I know I would, sort of hearing that over and over, I know I would be tempted to sort of be passive aggressive about it and put in like the impossible mode.
something that was like way too hard. Yeah.
That's just on the the mathematical edge of impossibility. Skirt that line, and maybe it's mathematically possible but practically impossible, and I would put it in. So fine, you want hard, there you go. You like apples, how do you like them apples? Go ahead, smash your head up against that for a while, and see how you like that. But I do know that I certainly wouldn't want that level of content to have some specific purpose or rewards that would be intended to be accessible to the entire community. If it's merely just a checkbox or one extra achievement that says I did the impossible version, then fine. Certainly would not want it to be as this is a progression level to get the gear that you're going to need to do, whatever the next thing is, or this is dropping the best stuff in the game, or this is dropping some cool decoration or mount that you can't get any other way, and it's going to be really frustrating for people. I don't think that's all that useful, and it would probably cause more frustration if you can only get 5% or 1% of the population to get it. As DP Roberts says in the chat room, someone still probably would find a way to clear the impossible stuff within the first 24 hours. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe tune it so that it's mathematically impossible. And if somebody can find a way to do it, fine. Maybe tune it so it's so difficult that you're going to have, you're expected you're going to have to put a patch in 2 weeks because it's too far over the edge, and even all those lead shortcuts, didn't get them able to get through it. Start with the impossible times 2, and then slowly back it off until somebody completes it. What else? Anything else interesting that you saw in there, Seema? I think that was pretty good.
Yeah, he talked. The blogger, Shindal, said. He did ask a question about rewards and flashpoints. Like when flashpoints first came out, when the game was new, it seemed like flashpoints were an alternate way to get geared up for your first operation, and that there was valuable gear that dropped there. Which I remember that time. That's why we were farming them. And he asked about, what went into the decision to remove those rewards from flashpoints. And Bacchus said that basically they felt that it was a confusing path when it was branching like that, and they felt that having rewards that they have a clear path to getting geared up for operations, and they don't use flashpoints for that. But I think that they could easily put lots of rewards into flashpoints that don't necessarily have to be whatever this confusion is that they're talking about raiding gear, but they could put decos, they could put pets and toys, they could put mounts. That would actually breathe life, I think, into the flashpoints as much as making them tactical has.
Yeah, not that I would really love gating the content behind flashpoints before you could do operations to do flashpoints. Not that I would love it, but I wouldn't necessarily hate it either. And we did this at the start of, was it 3? No, it was before 3.0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was when the hard modes first went into the game. So this would have been about February of 2015. February 9th of 2015 was around the time that they were first putting the hard modes into the game. There was a time when it was the gear that was coming out of there is gear that you wanted to be able to then start operations, and it mattered, and it was the point to sort of gate the content. And other MMOs do this; they gate the content that way. It does a couple things. It extends the life of the content, and it makes the content worthwhile. And although you might not be all that interested in running those flashpoints more over and over, it's something to do, and you'll like it and you won't. I sort of don't mind a little bit of that gating before you get into what you need to get done. So in some ways, I wish they would bring that back. I think it would extend the life of the content just a little bit more. Now, certainly,
Yep.
At this point, though, we don't know if they're ever going to be developing operations in the near term. We think they're going to be developing some sort of group content in the future. If there's any kind of progression, again, gating would be interesting, but again, there may not be any opportunity even for progression. So we'll just keep an eye on that as the Cotet stuff comes out.
I have to say, it's interesting that flashpoints kind of came into this discussion about flashpoints came up now, because I haven't done flashpoints in forever. And then doing them again this week with the team and having fun, it kind of reminded me that, yeah, this is kind of fun content. Why haven't I been doing this?
There was also, in some of these threads, there was a little bit of, people seem to dismiss or criticize Star Fortress quite a bit. They did say it was difficult, and they sort of explained the challenge of trying to put it into the group finder, which I completely agree with, is the way they did it in having it gate extra companions and all the alerts and having one over each planet. I think story-wise was pretty cool and an interesting twist, but it did block them from having any reasonable way to put that in the group finder without it being really frustrating. Because if you put it in and you say you needed to do the Alderaan Star Fortress, and then you tried to queue for it, and either you could queue for it and then you decided when you got in and you wouldn't get it, that would be really frustrating. Or if you tried to put all of them in the group finder and you queue for a particular planet, then that's not going to work.
But then you'd never get a
because,
group. Yeah.
yeah, that you'd be either blocked from that group, or if you were just saying random of any of them, then half the time you're going to be getting a Star Fortress. That aside, Star Fortress is a flashpoint. I like Star Fortress. I wouldn't, I don't know why that people diss Star Fortress so much. I think it's fine. There was a couple sort of cool things in there. I like the Exarch fights. I like how it's different Exarchs as you go through them, and I like when you when you die, you go into that little jail.
And that little, yeah.
That's my favorite part of the whole thing. So there's that. But again, I also really liked KDY. I think KDY is brilliant, and I would love for more flashpoints to work like KDY. So KDY is 4 different possible scenarios. You get one of 2 in the phase 1, one of 2 in the phase 2, and then one of 3 or 4 different end bosses. And it's sort of roll the dice of which scenarios you're getting each time for each of those thirds of the flashpoint. And I think it worked great, and I loved running it. I haven't run it in forever, but I don't know. There's no hard mode of it, so it's not on our list, and we're not going to run it for that. But it makes me want to go run
KDY was actually designed for a group that may or may not have healer and tank.
That was the first time they started doing those tacticals, right?
Yeah, right.
Which is cool.
And yeah, I mean, it's arguable whether the other flashpoints are really set up for success in a tactical setting. Without, if you have 4 DPS, some of them are
right,
very tough.
Whereas KDI was designed with that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. A little bit of a refresher there on hard mode flashpoints and doing it for DvL and doing it for fun and profit. I do recommend getting some good groups together. Come join us. We're going to be doing them. You saw my list. I've got, whatever, at least a dozen that I still have to do for DvL. Let me know. Let's run some flashpoints.
I still have to do a bunch of tacticals, like almost all the ones that don't have a solo mode, pretty much.
Yeah. Check them out if you can't do them solo. We'll shout out in guild. We support our guildies. I'll run them with you, Seema. There we go.
That's a pretty big time investment, though.
We'll do it anyway.
So are you telling me that I can just go in the tactical mode and solo the tacticals?
Many of them,
that
yes.
people are complaining are too hard? Okay.
Yeah.
Without a healer and a tank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Many of them, yes.
Okay.
But maybe not all of them, but at least a good chunk of them. And that I did most of them solo. So there's that. Alrighty then. I think that's about it. And I think with that, our little 161 droid here is ready to levitate himself into the escape pod. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight live on Twitch. Also, thanks to you that are listening in on newoverlords.com or iTunes or YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIESEMA. We will stream again next Tuesday night, again on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. And please come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite. We would love to have you, and we will talk to you soon.
Good night, everyone.